continue to be tracked down and killed. American civilian and military protectors, both here at home and overseas, have for nearly 9 years fought this enemy to a standstill, and have never for a second wondered why. They know and are not afraid. Their struggle is your struggle. They disdain those who claim to support them, but not the cause that takes their innocence, their limbs, and their lives. As a democracy, we sent them there. We must support them. I know it doesn't apply to anyone in this room today, but if anyone thinks you can somehow thank them for this service and not support the cause for which they fight, our country, then these people are lying to themselves and rationalizing away something in their own lives, but more importantly, they're slighting our warriors and mocking their commitment to this nation. Since this generation's day of infamy, the American military has handed this ruthless enemy defeat after defeat after defeat. And it will go on until this curse is eradicated. We have done this by unceasing pursuit day and night into whatever miserable lair Al-Qaeda and their extremist allies hide, and plan future opportunities to attack our nation. Our American warriors have never lost faith in their mission or doubted the correctness of their cause. They face dangers every day that their countrymen safe and comfortable this day cannot imagine. But this has always been the case in the wars we have fought. Not to build empires or enslave peoples, free those held in the grip of tyrants, while at the same time protecting our nation, its citizens, and our shared values. And ladies and gentlemen, think about this. Today, the only territory we as a nation have ever asked for from any nation that we fought alongside or against since our founding. The entire extent of our overseas empire are a few hundred acres of land where there are 24 American cemeteries scattered around the globe. It is in these cemeteries where 220,000 of our sons and daughters rest in glory for eternity, or are memorialized forever because their earthly remains are forever lost in the depth of the ocean or in far-flung battlefields. As a people, we can be proud because billions across the planet today live free, and billions yet unborn will have a chance at that freedom. Because America sends its sons and daughters out to fight and die for them as much as for us. We're at war, we are winning, you wouldn't know it. Because successes go unreported, and only when something goes sufficiently wrong or is sufficiently controversial that it's highlighted by the media elite that then sets up the know-it-all chattering class to offer their ceaseless criticism. These self-proclaimed experts always seem to know better, but have never themselves been in the arena. We're at war, and like it or not, that is a fact. It's not Bush's war, it's not Obama's war, it's our war. And we can't run away from it. Even if we wanted to surrender, there's no one to surrender to. Our enemy is savage, offers absolutely no quarter, and has a single focus, and that is to either kill every one of us here at home, or enslave us with a sick form of extremism that serves no God or no purpose that decent men and women could ever grasp. This city is as much at risk as is New York or Washington. Given the opportunity to do another 9/11, our merciless enemy would do it today, tomorrow, and every day hereafter. The butchers we fight killed 3,000 of our countrymen on 9/11. As horrible as that death toll was, consider for a second that those monsters that organized those attacks and carried them out killed only 3,000. Not because that was enough to make this sick, demented point, but because he couldn't figure out how to kill 30,000, or 300,000, or 30 million of us. I don't know why they hate us, and I don't care. We have a saying in the United States Marine Corps, we live by it. No better friend, no worse enemy than the United States Marine. We always hope for the first, friendship, but by God, we're certainly ready for the second. If it's death they want, it's death they will certainly get, and the United States Marines will continue showing them the way to hell, if that will make them happy. Because our America hasn't been successfully attacked since 9/11, many forget, because we want to forget. We're Americans, we want to move on. We're not a warlike people. As Americans, we hope for peace, but we must be realistic and acknowledge that hope is never an option. Others are less realistic or less committed, or are working their own agendas, and look for ways to blame past presidents or in some other way to rationalize our way out of this war. The problem is our enemy is not willing to let us go. Regardless of how much we wish this nightmare would go away, our enemy will stay forever on the offensive until he hurts us so badly we surrender, or we kill him first. To him, this is not about our friendship with Israel, or about territory, resources, jobs, economic opportunity in the Middle East. It's not. No, it's about us as a people, about our freedom to worship any God we please in any way we want. It's about the worth of every man and every woman, and their equality in the eyes of God and the law, of how we live our lives with our families inside the privacy of our own homes. It's about the God-given rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. As Americans, we hold these truths to be self-evident. He doesn't. We love what we have. He despises who we are. Our positions can never be reconciled. He cannot be deterred, only defeated. Compromise is out of the question. We are in a life and death struggle, but not our whole country. 1% of American families are touched by this war. That is a much smaller club of families who have given all. The company news, I think, for all of us, is that our men and women in uniform today are as good as any other in our history. As good as what their heroic and underappreciated and largely abandoned fathers and uncles were in the Vietnam War, and their grandfathers were in Korea in World War II. They have the same steel in their backs, ladies and gentlemen. And they're making their own name, their own mark in our history, in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. None of them have ever asked what their country could do for them, but always, and with their lives, have asked what they could do for America. While some might think we have produced yet another generation of materialistic, consumeristic, and self-absorbed young people, those who serve today and are about to serve have broken the mold and stepped forward as real men and real women who are already making their own way in life while protecting ours. They know the real strength of a platoon, a battalion, or a country is not in worshiping at the altar of diversity, but in a melting pot that stitches and strengthens by a sense of shared history, values, customs, hopes, and dreams, all of which unify a people, making them stronger as opposed to an unruly gaggle of hyphenated or multicultural individuals. And what are they like in combat? They're like Marines have been throughout our history. In my 3 tours in combat as an infantry officer, I never saw one of them hesitate or do anything other than lean into the fire with no apparent fear of death or injury to take the fight to our enemies. As anyone who has ever, and many of you have, who have ever experienced combat knows when it starts, when the explosions and traces are everywhere, and the calls for the corpsmen are screamed from the throats of men who know they are dying. When seconds seem like hours, it all becomes slow motion and fast forward at the same time. And the only rational act for them is to get down, to save themselves, but they don't. And no one would call them coward for cowering behind a wall or in a hole. None of them do. It doesn't matter if it's an IED, a suicide bomber, a mortar attack sniper, fighting in the next upstairs room of a house, or all at once. They talk, they swagger, and most importantly, fight today in the same way as American Marines have throughout our history, since time to tackle, in fact. They also know whose shoulders they stand on, and will never shame any Marine, living or dead. We can take comfort in the fact that these young Americans are not born killers, but are good and decent young men and women who, for going on 10 years, have performed remarkable acts of bravery and selflessness to a cause they have decided is bigger and more important than themselves. Only a few months ago, they were delivering your papers, stocking shelves in the local grocery store, worshiping next to you on Sunday in church. Like my own 2 sons who were fought in Iraq until this week fought in Afghanistan. They're also the same kids that drove their cars too fast, be liking, and played that god-awful music of their generation too loud. I have no doubt they are the finest of their generation. Like those who went before them in uniform, we owe them everything. We owe them our safety, we owe them our prosperity, we owe them our freedom, we owe them our lives. Any one of them could have done something more self-serving with their lives as the vast majority of their age group did after high school or college. But no, they chose to serve knowing full well a brutal war was in their future. They did not avoid the most basic and cherished responsibility of a citizen, to defend one's country. They welcomed it. They are the very best this country produces, and they have put every one of us ahead of themselves. All our heroes are simply stepping forward, and we as a people owe a debt we can never fully repay. Their legacy will be one of selfless valor, the country we live in, and the way we live our lives, and the freedoms that the rest of our country will take for granted. I'll close with a story about the kind of people they are, about the quality of the steel in their backs, and about the dedication they bring to our country while they serve in uniform and forever after as veterans. 2 years ago, when I was commanding general in Iraq's Anbar province, on the 22nd of April 2008, 2 Marine infantry battalions, Walking Dead, 1st Battalion, 109th Marines, was switching out after their 7 months in Ramadi with 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines. One battalion in the closing days of their deployment, going home in just a couple of days, the other battalion just driving around. 2 Marines, Corporal Jonathan Yale and Lance Corporal Jordan Herder, 22 and 20 years old, respectively. One from each battalion, and they were assuming to watch together at the entrance gate of an outpost that contained a makeshift barracks housing 50 United States Marines. The same broken down building was home to more than 100 Iraqi police and army. They were also my men. They were our allies in the fight against terrorism. And until very recently, Ramadi was held, owned by Al-Qaeda. This kid Yale was a dirt poor, mixed-race kid from Virginia. He had a wife and a daughter, and a mother and a sister who lived with him, and he was their sole provider. He did all of this, of course, on $23,000 a year. Herder, on the other hand, was a middle-class white kid from Long Island. They were from 2 completely different worlds. Had they not joined the Marines, they would never have met each other, but fully understood that there are multiple Americas that exist in our country, depending on one's race, education level, economic status, and where you might have been born. But they were Marines, they were combat Marines, forged in the same crucible of Marine training. And because of this bond, they were brothers, as close or closer than if they'd been born to the same woman. Mission orders they received from the sergeant's squad leader, I'm sure, went something like, okay, you 2 clowns, stay in this post and let no unauthorized personnel or vehicles pass. You clear? And I'm sure the 2 of these guys, these Marines, rolled their eyes and said in unison something like, yes, we got it. With just enough attitude to make the point that they're combat Marines and knew what they were doing. They then relieved the 2 other Marines on watch and took up their post at entry control point for a place called Joint Security Station Nasser in the Sophia district of Ramadi. Very few minutes later, a very large blue truck turned down the alleyway. It was 60 or 70 yards long and sped its way through the serpentine of concrete Jersey walls. The truck stopped just short of where the 2 Marines were posted and detonated, killing them both catastrophically. 24 brick masonry houses were damaged or destroyed. A mosque 100 yards away collapsed. The truck's engine came to rest 200 yards away and knocked the house down before it came to rest. Our EOD experts reckon the blast was made by at least 2,000 pounds of explosive. 2 died, and because these 2 young infantrymen didn't have it in their DNA to run from danger, they saved 150 of their Iraqi and American brothers in arms. When I read the situation report, I knew immediately there was something different about this particular act. We Marines, unfortunately, expect Marines, regardless of rank or MOS, to do their duty and to die in the process if that's necessary. So the deaths were not unusual. But this seemed different. The regimental commander had just returned from the site, and he agreed, but reported that there were no American witnesses to the event, only Iraqi police. I figured if there was any chance at all of finding out what